declaration. This transition period is supposed to be for 20 months. Now, the first 8 months, which begins from now or from whenever there is an official declaration that Libya has been liberated and free, the first 8 months will be led and overseen by the National Transition Council, by the NTC. During those 8 months, there will be a transitional government. That transitional government is being formed as we speak. There is a little bit of wrangling and argument about who should be in that government. There's quite a lot of pressure from civil society, from the youth, from those who have been fighting to make sure that those who are going to be in the transition government are those who are credible, who are seen as nationalists, who have not been marred by corruption or have been associated with the Gaddafi regime or implicated in violation of human rights and so on. So that makes it it's taking time to accommodate everybody and come up with a transition government that everybody approves of, or the great majority of people approve of and can actually support and work with. We hope that an announcement for such a government will be made in a few days. It's expected that it will be formed from about 22 ministers, and it will be headed by Dr. Mahmoud Jibril. Now, that is only for 8 months, as I said. The plan is that at the end of 8 months, the Libyan people will be asked to directly elect a General National Council of about 200 members, or possibly 210 members, based on demographic distribution and dividing Libya into constituencies, equal constituencies, or about equal constituencies. That council, if elected hopefully within the 8 months or by the end of 8 months, and it doesn't take any longer than that, will have a direct mandate and a direct legitimacy because it is directly elected by the Libyan people. That election will be the first ever election Libyans engage in over the last 42 years. It is a fact that over the last 42 years, Libyans have never known elections. They have never known ballot boxes. They have never known how to cast a vote because Gaddafi has never allowed that. So that will be a new experience. It's a new culture. It's not going to be easy. A lot of education is going to be needed, a lot of awareness, and a lot of discipline. But that council will have a strong mandate, as I said, because it's going to be directly elected. It will have a strong political legitimacy. That council will then assume the running of the country for a period of 12 months. And this is where the 20 months come in, 8 and 12. The 12 months under which the council will run the country should be only for 2 aims. First is to oversee drafting a constitution, a new permanent constitution, and secondly, to lead to elections or oversee final elections, parliamentarian and presidential elections. Now, on theory, this should be about 20 months from now. But judging from other experiences and judging from the fact that Libyans have never experienced elections and campaigning and political parties and pluralism and democracy over the last 42 years, there might be complications, there might be challenges. I'm going to be very realistic. There will be challenges. There will be ups and downs. So, these are all challenges to be addressed and to be met, hopefully, and dealt with. Once we have those ultimate final elections, we should have reached what we call the permanent status, and then Libya should be on a road of a democratic political system that will be the best for such a country with small population and huge resources to allow it, as I said, to develop and prosper very, very quickly. Now, one of the key priorities, which starts really from now, not after 20 months, of any ruling government, whether it's the temporary transitional government, whether it's the elected council, or whether it's ultimately an elected parliament and a president, one of the key challenges is reconstruction and rebuilding. Libya is a country that has been deprived of any proper infrastructure. It has been deprived of any proper state building, institution building, deprived of any proper capacity building. Education has been very, very poor in terms of the quality of education. So the challenges are huge. Libya has been a country relying totally on natural wealth, on oil and gas, what is known as a rentier state, or a natural resource-based economy. Now that has got its problems, and it has got its inherent weaknesses. The oil sector in Libya is responsible for about 95% of national income, and yet the oil sector is known as being a very, very low labor-intensive industry. It employs only about 45,000 or 49,000 Libyans. So there you can see a problem. So one of the key challenges, immediate and long term, is how to diversify the Libyan economy, how to allow the private sector to come in and play a crucial part and develop, and how to diversify into other areas of economic activity and production. And already there is a lot of talk, and obviously intellectuals and Libyans who are interested in these fields. I am one of them. I've done a bit of research on this. There is a lot of talk about the necessity to diversify the Libyan economy and develop crucial other clusters where growth can come in from, and where wealth creation can be made, growth can be achieved, and where employment can be provided, so that we can provide good jobs for especially for young generations. Libya is a very young society. 72% of Libyans are under the age of 30. And everybody has high expectations of having a good job, a good house, and a good career. So only the private sector, only diversification, only developing other clusters is going to meet this challenge. We are already thinking about things like tourism, things like solar energy, things like making Libya into a trading hub for its neighbors, whether it's in North Africa or even sub-Saharan Africa. Things like agriculture, things like small industries, and things like new industries based on new technologies and environmentally based manufacturing and technology. So these are the kind of issues and areas that will have to be tackled and met by any new government. Now, also, as I said, at the cornerstone of any development, any diversification will have to be capacity building. Libyans generally have been, over the last 42 years, working mainly for the government. The government was the main and almost the sole employer over the last 42 years. 900,000 people worked for the government, which means that there is absolutely no incentive to develop skills, to develop new talents, things like leadership skills, management skills, IT skills, presentation skills, planning skills, strategic thinking skills. All these skills are lacking, because people who work for governments have a job guaranteed for life, and they don't normally work very well because they have no incentive to do that. So only capacity building will have to be a crucial area, and only when people are encouraged to work for themselves or work in the private industry, that they will be intensified to actually will have an incentive to actually develop skills, and that will be very good for economic growth. What is also the way ahead is to actually work with international community and international companies as partners. So one of the key crucial strategic ways ahead is going to be encouraging international companies, and this is obviously directly relevant to you, to come into Libya, but also to form partnerships with local partners, mainly in the private sector. I think that's going to be very important. It's very useful. It works for both sides. For Libyans, it means knowledge transfer, it means technology transfer, it means they can learn from the international companies and get and achieve new talents. For the international companies, it means that when they work with local partners, things can be much smoother in terms of facilitation, knowing the local environment and the local dynamics, and also managing through the local culture. So I think partnerships is going to be a very useful strategy, and it's going to be very, very important.